Hello and welcome to a new YouTube tutorial by Peakboard. In our video today, we'd like to show you the basics for reading and writing onto your Siemens S7 controller using Peakboard. In our case, we'll be working with an S7 1500 controller. However, this tutorial applies to all versions of the controller that have a network connection. In the background, I've already begun to set up my visualization. This will later display the current value of a particular integer of the S7 controller, as well as the maximum value. In order to visualize the progress made, we'll also include a progress bar that will fill over time. Once the visualization is set up, I can begin reading the current value of the controller. To do that, I'm going to set up a new data source under Data, Add Data Source. Here, I'm going to select the Siemens S7 controller and then start by naming the data source. Next, I'll add the IP address and, if relevant, the rack and slot. Additionally, I'm going to select which model of the S7 series I want to connect. Under Max Rows, I can determine how many rows should be read from the table. Since I only want to read out one value without any historical values, I can leave this at 1. I will also leave the reload time, shown in milliseconds, at 500. Here, you'll always need to consider just how often the data source should be updated, and how much traffic you want to generate. Now we can move on to setting up the variable. To do that, I'm going to select Add Simple, and first enter a name. This is important since it will later determine the name of the column of the variable. Additionally, I'm going to select the type, data block number, the byte offset, and the data type. This information is exactly the same as that found in your TIA portal. Once I'm done with the variable, I'm finished with setting up my Siemens S7 data source. Now I'm ready to connect the current value of the controller to my visualization. To do that, I'm going to select the text box and enter the text of the column Count into my Machine 1 data source. Next, I'll do the same for the progress bar. For the maximum or target value, I'm going to set up a variable that I'll call maximum. Normally, this value would, of course, be dynamically sourced from an ERP system. I'll define my variable as a number so that it can later be directly compared to the current value. After I've connected this value to the two controls, I'll now go on to add a refresh script for my Siemens S7 data source. This will serve to demonstrate how to use Peakboard to write onto your controller. For this, I'll first define my conditions. These will check whether the current value is larger than the maximum value. If that is the case, the value on the controller should be set to 0. To do that, I'm going to look for the Machine 1 data source on the right side in the script tree and select Set Data Block Variable under Write to PLC. An example script will now be automatically generated for me, in which I will replace the existing values with the values of the variable that should be changed later. I'm going to replace the 100 with a 0 in order to write 0 onto the controller. With that, I'm finished with today's tutorial. In the preview, we can watch as the Peakboard box reads out data from the Siemens S7 controller completely autonomously, and how it resets the value on the controller to 0 when the predefined condition is met, that is, when the current value is greater than the maximum value. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked our video today, we would love it if you'd give us a thumbs up. I've also added a video covering a more complex visualization using Peakboard and the Siemens S7 controller for you in the description. Additionally, you'll find a link to our software, which you can download free of charge, so you can visualize your own Siemens S7 controller today.